friend of mine recently reminded me of a phenomenon that I've noticed for most of my life. Growing up, like a lot of you, I watched a lot of Sesame Street. When I was a kid, PBS was basically Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, Reading Rainbow. Electric Company wasn't on the air anymore, unfortunately. But Sesame Street was a big part of what I watched on TV when I was a kid. And I've always noticed that through no fault of the creators, the Children's Television Workshop, Jim Henson Company, Sesame Street once in a while had a tendency to scare kids. And not in a let's make this scary kind of a way, because it's Sesame Street, but in more of you know how kids think. I don't have kids myself yet, but my friends tell me stories about you'll never believe what my kid was crying about last night, or you'll never believe what my kid was laughing at yesterday. Things like that. I'll give you an example. When I was a kid, I remember when my sister was very little, she found certain animations on Sesame Street to be terrifying, I guess. Anytime there was something that had the sky and there were clouds and something was flying around in it, she would start crying, and we didn't know why. We never figured it out. And it was if something like that were to come up, we knew that we had to change the channel so she wouldn't start crying. Because I can just remember, I can see it in my head. I don't remember what it was for, but it was a thing. It was a blue sky, there were clouds, almost like the opening of The Simpsons, but there was I don't have one, but there was a pencil, and it was like a cartoon pencil superimposed on the screen. It was woo, flying around. For some reason, it scared the crap out of my sister. The friend that I was talking about earlier recently posted something on Facebook about being scared of a sketch where a chef had a bunch of cakes and pies and stuff, and he would stand at the top of a flight of stairs and announce that he was holding 3 pumpkin pies, and he would go to walk down the stairs, but then he would just start jumbling them all up like he's in a infomercial, and he would just drop them all over himself, and he'd fall down the stairs, and he'd eat shit. And I never saw it when I was a kid, watched it, found it incredibly funny, but from my buddy here, he found it scary. I started going through YouTube looking at Sesame Street clips, old ones, and, feeling nostalgic, but every once in a while I would see comments from people that would say, did this scare you when you were a kid? I used to get scared and I'd have to run out of the room whenever this one would come on. There was, one of those stop-motion animation clips that was just it was it was an oil lamp that assembled itself, and it was it had some cool music, somebody with a Moog synthesizer did this music to it, and it was really neat. It was also because we had oil lamps in the house, but we never used them as lamps. They were just decorations, so I had no idea that you were supposed to light something on fire in it. But I don't know, there was something about this clip that scared some people when they were 4 or 5 years old. That to me is fascinating. It's like a child psychology thing, and I always get stuck thinking about stuff like that. Why? Why do we form miniature phobias around things? Why do we find certain things to be scary, and then we grow out of it, or we look at it from a different point of view when we're older, and we wonder, why the heck would a kid find this scary? But then I remembered the thing that scared me from Sesame Street. And I think anybody who's seen this and remembers it will agree with me. It's the I-beam. Okay, so if you just had a vision in your head when I mentioned this of a like a bright glowing steel I-beam being formed by machines with terrifying music, then you're on the right track. This video that I found is like, it's a minute and a half long. It's like the original reel that they used on the show. And I am going to play it now, and we're going to talk about it. I'm going to face my fear here and show it to you. Alright, I'm hitting play. Pray for me. Okay, that's creepy enough in its own, that backwards sound that we just heard. Oh. Lead-ins. Oh, we heard it again.
I-beam.
Okay, so that's obviously, I just paused it. Obviously that's like the tech, because this was all shot either these are film reels or they were put like onto tapes of some sort. Just so that you know what this clip is. So far this has just been black with some creepy backwards set. Look at me. I'm already like scared of this. It's just been black with some creepy backwards sounds, like we're in a David Lynch film, and then we get this voice that comes in and simply says, I-beam. So I'm going to blame that guy. Another thing, that black is like almost swirling. Like you can see something in there, like it's a Max Castle film. Read Flicker by Ted Rozak. You'll get that joke and then you'll thank me later. Okay, now this countdown is freaking me out too. The anticipation. Okay, there we go. Jesus! Okay. That shit is right in your face, and we get this clang. It's like, hey kids! Sesame Street. This music. Okay, that muted trumpet there sounds like Sesame Street. Looks like French toast. God. Fortunately, I still love French toast to this day. This music. This imagery. Koyana Scotzi. Lord, oh my God, that freeze frame. That freeze frame is chilling, searing that thing into your brain, into your psyche. That's been with me for a long time. There's plenty of kids who had to go and run behind the couch whenever that would come on. Of course, me, I would just sit there. I'm sure I just sat there transfixed, like... I probably had no idea what to do. I probably just sat there terrified. You know, for kids. Good Lord. Another thing, I can swear, and I know that other people have said this online, the last time that I looked into this, which is a while ago, if it seems familiar to you that I'm talking about this on my old blog on newpage1.com, back when it was an aimless blog that I had, like in college, I talked about this. But I can remember somebody else online saying during that horrible freeze frame that somebody said, I could have sworn that there was a voiceover that said, the letter I, or just I, you know, maybe that's a Mandela effect, I don't know. Who thought this was a good idea to show to children? Preschool children. Scrolling through it again. This is just so terrifying. When I was a kid, I thought that it was like a really hot loaf of bread, for one thing, when you first see it going down that conveyor belt. And then it starts getting tossed around, and it gets shaved down a couple of times. I couldn't remember what the hell that was supposed to be. And, like, you know, and also I just remember being just so terrified of it that I had, it was completely over my head that it was supposed to be the letter I. Maybe that's why they got James Earl Jones in there to clear it up with everyone. The letter I. Can you imagine just tuning into Sesame Street for the day, and you've just been counting with Elmo, and then, you know, we check in with Luis and Maria. They're fixing something for Telly. Then you get this horrible nightmare coming at you. And then we're back to, you know, Gordon and Cookie Monster are having milk and cookies. So I don't know. How about you? Did anything horrify you on Sesame Street when you were a kid, or any other show for that matter? Like I said, weird things scare kids. If you've got any memories to share from your childhood, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I'm not that kind of a guy who says leave a comment, like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and buy my merch, and get a tattoo, and follow me on every goddamn thing. I just wanted to come on and discuss this, because it needs to be spoken about. Thanks a lot. This video has been brought to you by the letter I and the number 35, because that's how old I am.